You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. Join Steve and his guests every week as he staggers from Georgia to Maine.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I've now left Pennsylvania behind, and as we all know, the rocks don't simply stop at the Pennsylvania-New Jersey border. But all I can say is that the rocks just feel, I don't know, different. And I've thoroughly enjoyed New Jersey so far. I still haven't seen a bloody bear, by the way. One of the main reasons I've found I've enjoyed New Jersey is that I was lucky enough to get a bit of slackpacking this week. And it came at a time that really helped my hike. I've been getting a little tired lately, probably a combination of heat and exertion. So I jumped at the chance to take up offers from two listeners, Don and Steve, as they helped me make my way further north. Since I returned to the trail at Harper's Ferry, having fallen only twice in the first 610 miles, I've fallen 5 more times in the next 300 or so. In fact, I think I've fallen 5 times in the last 150 miles, which is not a good trend. And I hope that that's going to reverse itself shortly. But before we talk about what happened this week, let's hear from our sponsor, Polar Steps. If you're heading out on a long hike this year, which I am, I've got something I think you're going to love. It's called Polar Steps. It's a travel tracking app that's going to become a favourite with hikers. You set your start date, let it run quietly in the background, and it maps your entire journey automatically, all on your own beautiful spinning 3D globe. And don't worry, the tracking feature uses about 4% of your battery on a single charge, so it's not going to kill your phone when you're out there. You can add photos and short journal entries as you go, so your map shows you where you were and your words remind you of what that day actually felt like. There's a light social layer too. Family and friends can follow along, or you can keep it completely private. As every hiker says, hike your own hike. And when you're done, you can relive the whole thing in the app or turn it into a stunning coffee table book with your route, stats, photos and stories. And did I tell you that it's entirely free to download and use? The only time you'll be paying anything is if you decide to turn your trip into a book. That's Polar Steps. Track it now, treasure it forever. Day 87, which is last Wednesday. Deer Head Hotel in Delaware Water Gap, mile 1297.7, to a stealth site, mile 1315.7, an 18-mile slackpack day, which is lovely. As I mentioned before, listeners have kindly reached out and offered me assistance on this trip. And this week has been a prime example. After my 20-mile day with a full pack the previous day, I'd reached Delaware Water Gap and an anonymous listener, I think I call him Don, had put me up in the Deer Head Hotel and was going to slackpack me for the next few days. Don and I found a good breakfast place in Stroudsburg, filled up on eggs and bacon, then returned to the trail. He was going to drive ahead to Blue Mountain Lakes Road, then start walking back to meet up with me, and then walk back towards his car where we'd find a place to camp. I felt like I had my own personal Sherpa. I set off and crossed the Delaware River, and the noise was horrendous. You know, it's such a rude awakening from the tranquility of the woods when you encounter traffic noise. Talking of which, there's a plane flying overhead, as you can probably hear. It happened when I crossed the Susquehanna River coming out of Duncannon, and road noise wouldn't normally bother me, but I remember shouting at it when I was crossing the Susquehanna, shouting, shut up, or words to that effect, as I crossed the river, because it was just so noisy, and you're just not used to it anymore. But once I'd crossed the river, there was a bit more flat walking to go, and as always, I'm always grateful for that. Then as the path rises above the road, the tranquility just returns. It does make me appreciate the silence of the woods even more. The path up, for the most part, was absolutely wonderful, and frankly, if I would live there, I think I'd do this walk every Sunday or something. A couple of hours up, a couple of hours down, sit around at Sunfish Pond. It's just absolutely glorious. And while there were short climbs, there were longer flat stretches, and those flat stretches were, initially anyway, mercifully free of rocks. Of course there were rocks, and loads of them, because they don't just suddenly stop at the border. However, they didn't tend to slow me down the way in which they did in Pennsylvania, so I guess that's one of the differences. Then I got to Sunfish Pond, and I remember that from both my previous two hikes and how beautiful it was there. You know, you've got this glacial pond high up on a mountain, and the view across it on each of the days I've been there has been glorious. And I even saw a snake in the water, which I video. Then you really do hit some rocks. There's rocks around two sides of the pond, and you just make your way around there. Then came to a water source, and I saw a bunch of kids just before the water source, and asked if they knew where there was any, and they said there's some down there. And I took some out of the pond, or out of the stream rather, and it was kind of brown and dirty, which I didn't really fancy trying out too much, and I resisted actually drinking enough water at that stage, because that water was pretty nasty looking. But I carried on, and even though there were still those rocks, I never felt like those rocks wanted to kill me like I did think before. I then had that moment we all have on trail at some stage, when you come to a cooler with trail magic inside it from a church, and I opened it up and it was full of trash. No trail magic at all. I reached the road and I turned left up to the Mohican Outdoor Centre. I just desperately needed some water by then, because the brown stuff did not look terribly attractive at all in my Nalgene. Another plane going ahead, by the way, overhead. At the centre I ran into Rocketeer and also Grizzly from the Warrior Expedition. He is the larger-than-life character I interviewed way back. He was just as warm and friendly as he was before, and just loving it out there. He'd lost 65 pounds in weight. I actually weighed myself today, and I've lost 45 pounds so far, which I still think is pretty good. But 65 pounds is amazing. It is the best diet ever invented. Relentlessly eating everything that's bad for you, and just walking 2,000 miles. That'll sort it all out. Beats all the other diets hands down. And Grizzly had also just seen his 19th bear on the trip, and I'm still stuck on 0. How on earth does that happen? He's got to be a bear whisperer. Even has photos and videos of most of them, including a selfie he took that very day with the bear just behind him. Turns his back on the bear and takes a selfie. A crazy guy. At the centre, I bought some spring water and a Powerade and gulped them both down. Outside, I filled up my bottles at a spigot and went on my way. I was meeting Don and kept pushing on until I got to Catfish Pond Fire Tower, where I had expected to meet him. But just before I got to the fire tower, I videoed a rattler crossing my path. Those snakes are never in any hurry. They're not scared of us at all. They just kind of wander across the path, and I just filmed it as it went further into the undergrowth. A mile or so later, we met up and continued back to Don's car. There were a couple of stealth sites nearby, so we set up. Do you know, of all things to hear in this lovely quiet forest, the sound of rap music suddenly jarred us. I could see a car 100 yards down the side road and set off to ask whoever it was to turn it down a bit. It was a young guy out on his own with his trunk opened as the music blasted away. He turned it down as I approached and assured me that he wouldn't be there long. Nice lad. Don and I had a chat as we ate and turned in as hike and midnight approached. Day number 88, which was last Thursday, a stealth site, mile 1315.7, to Gren Anderson Shelter, mile 1329.5, a 13.8 mile slackpack day. It was another very warm night, and my 25-degree quilt is just too darn hot. I did have the opportunity to change it out and get a new one, a 40-degree one. They had a sale on over July 4th, and I stupidly missed that. I'm one of these people that if I miss a sale on, they're not going to buy it full price, so I'm going to have to put up with it. You know, I just had to spend most of the night with it just draped loosely across the lower part of my body. I eventually got up at about 5:30 in the morning and made my breakfast. Don's car was close by and I packed my stuff into his car before I headed out again around 7 o'clock with my deliciously light pack. The plan was for me to hike about 10 miles to meet him at a road for lunch, then hike another 9 miles later on to meet him at a shelter. Now that is what I call a plan. As you can tell by the fact that I only did 13.8 miles, it didn't quite work out. The early part of the path was beautiful with a few rocks, but really not that many. Then the rocks grew steadily more numerous, but I kept saying to myself, but these rocks don't want to kill me. It really felt that way in Pennsylvania, but these really don't want to kill me. But then I looked up and I saw some rocks that looked like they did want to kill me. I'd come to what looked like a wall right in front of me. I stopped for a moment, then I saw that the climb was going to be easy with footholds and handholds seemingly conveniently placed. I bet they wouldn't have done that in Pennsylvania. Then I had one of the most pleasant surprises I've had on this trip. I was getting up quite a steep climb and I heard a guy ahead of me singing the Beatles' Taxman. I said hi and we started speaking. He was with a woman and he asked me if I hiked back in 2019. And I then recognised him. His name's Robbie. We knew him as Fancy Pants and he was, without a doubt, and he remains one of the funniest people I ever met on trail. We had this hilarious night one night when he was a bit, how can I put it, chemically enhanced, and with another guy who was equally chemically enhanced. We had this conversation about the contribution of British music to the world music scene. And this guy is telling everybody that apart from the Beatles, we hadn't produced any bands at all. So I said, Led Zeppelin? He said, they're American. And every time I said a different band, Deep Purple, Fleetwood Mac, I don't know, Pink Floyd, he kept saying they were American people. It was the funniest thing. In fact, we were as close to laughing up, out loud and almost lying on the floor of the shelter, just screaming in laughter as I've ever come. It was just the funniest evening. Great guy. Anyway, the two of us reminisced and I asked if I could record him, and I'm going to play that after this. The woman he was with was Whippoorwill. Her name was Starr, but Whippoorwill was a trail name. And she's doing her own through hike this year. I recorded her as well, and I'll play that after I play the interview with Robbie. The plan for the day then started to fall apart. Don was going to meet me after 10 or 11 miles and we were going to have some lunch, and I was going to slack pack another 7 or 8 miles. But then when I got to the road where we were meeting, he told me he'd been called home, so I unloaded my pack and thanked him for his help and generosity. It really helps, being slack packed by people is such a wonderful thing, and the fact that these are my listeners and think enough about me to want to do this is just, it's very, what's the word? It's very humbling. I went into the pub for what was intended to be a quick meal and a Coke. This turned out into a longer meal and 2 beers. There were several other hikers there and breadcrumbs joined us later. The two of us decided we didn't want to go any further than the Gren Anderson shelter, just about 2.5 miles away. It was the second beer that could tell my ambitions that day, let me tell you. Another big up with those 2 beers inside me and I reached the shelter, happy to be done for the day. I was considering staying in the shelter given the potential of rain that evening, but as the day wore on, it seemed that the rain would stay away. So I set up my tent, and inside it, I watched France versus Monaco in the World Cup. Happy freaking days, eh? So you wouldn't believe this. I'm in New Jersey. I come up on a guy and a gal, and this guy's singing Taxman by the Beatles. And I said hi, and he turned round, and I think we kind of recognised each other. This is Robbie. What were you back in 2019?
Yeah, I was doing a section, I don't remember if it was Virginia.
It was part of the trail for a while, and we had a hilarious evening with a guy who did not believe any of the best bands in the world were British, including he didn't believe Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, didn't believe The Who were British, all those things he thought were American. And you, who were you then? You were Fancy Pants?
I was Fancy Pants.
And who are you now?
Well, I came to trail. I'm Pale Rider now, and the name Fancy Pants just started to infiltrate my existence a bit too much on trail. I was living up to the name.
With the fancy pants you were wearing?
Well, no, with the metaphorical fancy pants lifestyle.
Oh, right, okay.
It's expensive.
So what happened then in 2019? Did you get to the end?
I think that was the summer that I made it to that Green Mountain. Is it Green something in Vermont?
Oh, right, it's quite a ways up there. Yeah, I know what you mean.
And there was a heat wave, and I just felt like a San Francisco boy that doesn't like temperatures above 65.
How do you feel now? It's pretty warm
Well,
today.
I had to get used to 99 degree days, but I'm hiking with someone from Alabama, and so it didn't bother her, so I figured it out. And I think I'm a little more adjusted now.
In what way? To the heat?
Yeah.
Oh dear. So this is what, a long-ass section hike, or what are you actually doing?
Yeah, started at Rockfish Gap and hopefully get to the Whites. I'm going to run out of time in September, so.
Oh, you have got to get off, have you?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to be a shame to have to get off maybe in the middle or at the end of the Whites and not be able to do Maine.
Yeah. But I've worked out my numbers, and I know that if I do 80 miles a week between now and Katahdin, I'll get there by the 30th of September.
Yeah.
80 miles a week. That's all it is.
Oh, yeah. Right. That's
doable.
Comfortable, yeah.
Very doable. And each of the first 2 weeks I've been tracking it that way. One's been 102 miles, one's been 93, even in the heat. So
right.
you can easily do it. I know the miles will come down in Maine and New Hampshire, but you can I'm building up credit all the way because I know I'm going to lose them in New Hampshire and Maine.
Right.
So you enjoyed it this year?
Oh, I mean, sometimes it's down to the luck of who you meet.
Of course.
And this year I got real lucky.
All right. That's a big introduction. You're going to have to live up to that in a minute. Yeah. So in what way did you get real lucky?
Well, just sometimes compatibility is better than you could even have imagined.
Oh, wow.
Like as a hiking partner.
Is that speed of hiking or what?
Yeah, just not wanting to leave someone's side because just everything is complimentary all day long. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. It sounded pretty crazy. I'm going to ask her about that.
It is.
How crazy that is.
It is
as well.
crazy.
Oh, dear. So when you did it last time, was that your first time last time in 2019?
No, I actually tried it in 2016 and got Lyme.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
And I got and the Lyme saved me from my what do you call them? Microfractures in my feet that might have long term.
Yeah.
If I had gone to Katahdin, I think because I had the fitness but not the feet.
Right. So lucky you got Lyme.
Yeah.
So has that had any long term effects, Lyme?
I don't think so. I'm finding wood.
Touch rock.
Yeah. I'll knock on this wood.
Yeah.
I sort of have always, I have the kind of personality that seems like I might have had Lyme since I was born.
All those years are rolling by now. I remember so many conversations like this with you. and some of it may have been chemically induced. I'm not terribly sure.
But by the way, so this is the first summer that I brought weed with me to trail.
Right.
And by the first week, I was like, I'm good.
Wow.
Through it,
because you were thoroughly enjoying it in 2019, I seem to recall.
Yeah. I suppose I was, but this is the first time I'm off it and not even
missing it.
I mean, that's what I mean.
There you go. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
You got somebody watching out for you, for your health.
Well, it's just I lost interest in it.
That's cool. That's so cool. Well, look, man, it has been absolute privilege and pleasure to bump into you again. I remember you very well from 2019. You were freaking hilarious.
Yeah, I enjoyed our conversations then. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Well, thanks for talking to me. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Cheers. So, with Robbie, he's just given a great build-up. This is a Starr or Whippoorwill. Hey, thanks for talking to us.
Yeah.
Why are you Whippoorwill?
Whippoorwill because my friends say I'm cursed. If they camp with me, then a whippoorwill will come and keep them up all night. So that's how that happened.
Kind of unpleasant. Yeah, kind of unpleasant.
Yeah.
So how's the hike gone for you?
So far so good. Started at the bottom of Shenandoah, probably 450 miles-ish right now.
How are you feeling?
Feel pretty good. I just retired from teaching a few weeks ago, so that's why I have to do a flip-flop.
Oh, right.
So I had to wait until the end of the school year, and so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, guys. Oh, you guys, can you lower it a bit? Yeah, thank you. Right, yeah. So you retired from teaching, and how's the change of life then? It's just coming out to something like this, which is so quiet.
Yeah, it's great.
You haven't got kids shouting at you and things like that?
Yeah, I don't have a million people needing me at one time.
Right, yeah.
All hours of the day. Yeah. So, yeah, it's...
And then you ran into this guy.
Yeah.
So, tell us about him.
Well, we met, I guess, first night on trail. I'm hiking with my son. He joined my AT hike about a week before I decided to leave. He called and said, hey, can I come with you? And I was like, yeah. He's roly-poly. He's a little bit ahead of us right now because he's faster. He's 19, so he's a lot faster. And he's hiking with his dog, Tick, a German Shepherd.
Right.
And,
So he's not actually hiking with you, in other words.
He's not hiking with me today or yesterday, but we'll catch back up with him.
Yeah. So what made you want to come here, though? I mean, it's not everybody's normal first retirement thing, although it is for some people.
I guess I've always wanted to do it, and I never had time enough off work to do. Right. I mean, I've done some hiking, but haven't been able to do a really long trail.
And you did the bottom of Shenandoah to Katahdin. You're flipping.
And then I'll go back to Shenandoah and then south to Georgia.
Yeah. And so, what's the timing of that? When do you think you'll get to it?
It's hard. It's hard to know, but I'll probably be. I'm thinking hiking into the Smokies around fall, around leaves changing. We'll see.
Oh, yeah. Well,
if it all goes well.
My plan is to come back to Harper's Ferry and go south. But then I'll finish when I get to mile 600, which would be great, Yeah. Maybe 400 miles to go once I get there, And this trail itself, what's your impression? Because we've just come out of Pennsylvania, and I was dreading Pennsylvania, having done this before. That's one of the problems of doing it before. You know what's coming up in that. How did you find the rocks?
I think I had built it up in my head to be way worse than it was really going to be.
Really?
The rocks, yeah.
You didn't find they were just as bad?
They were. I don't think that they were as bad as I thought they were going to be. But that was the part I was dreading the most.
Yeah.
So some other part will kick my butt. But.
It is still nice to walk into Delaware Water Gap, isn't it?
Yeah, really
nice.
And
get away from it. And yet, as everybody now knows, the rocks don't stop once you cross the border.
No, I mean, it seems like the rocks are the same in New Jersey as they were in Pennsylvania.
I keep saying I think these rocks just don't want to kill me, but the ones in Pennsylvania...
Yeah, they're not quite as sharp.
No, wherever you put your foot, yeah. So how's your gear holding out? Have you got all the right stuff?
I have replaced shoes once already. And they're already
Yeah. It didn't last long, did it?
No, they didn't last long at all.
What else? About your other stuff? You tenting or
I'm hammocking, yeah.
Really? How's that working out?
It's great. My hammock's more comfortable than my bed at home. I'm used to hammock camping, so I'm carrying a little extra weight to do that, unfortunately.
Right. So how much extra is it to carry a hammock as opposed to carrying a tarp?
It's quite a bit, just because you have to have a tarp separate from your hammock, and then you have to have something to sleep on top of as well as your quilt over you. So I have an underquilt. It's almost like carrying two quilts. Well, it is carrying two quilts. It is carrying two quilts,
yeah. Because I've got one as well.
Yeah.
I just didn't think I could do it for a whole AT hike.
Yeah.
There's something about it. For me, getting in my tent and zipping everything up and feeling safe and having everything around me. I actually take my chair inside my tent and sit in there.
Really?
Some evenings for about an hour. It's great.
Yeah.
Because if I lie down on my pad, I'm going to fall asleep straight away.
Mm-hmm. You must have a big tent if you can put a chair in it.
It is very big. It's a Durston X-Dome too. So
okay.
Massive thing. And so, what are you looking forward to in the future? Coming up. You're looking forward to New Hampshire and Maine.
Yeah, I am. I'm really looking forward to that.
So that didn't frighten you before then?
No, the logistics of hiking in the whites kind of...
They're okay.
It seems...
That works out.
Strange. But, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
It's exponentially more difficult, but your legs will have been built up by then, so you should be
hopefully. That was the idea starting in Shenandoah.
Trust me, they will have been built up. Well, look, I'm so glad to have bumped into Robbie and now to you. And I just wish you Day 89, last Friday. Grant Anderson Shelter, mile 1329.5 to High Point State Park HQ, mile 1340.7, just an 11.2 mile day. I had intended to stay in the shelter the previous evening because there was some rain in the forecast. In the end, I kept putting up my tent, but the rain forecast seemed to change a bit and it looked like we weren't going to get any rain, so I decided to put my tent up at the last minute. And it didn't rain. And in the morning, I spoke to a guy who had come in late and had gone straight into the shelter. He told me that he'd been plagued by mosquitoes all night long and bites all over his head. I'm very happy that I chose to stay in my tent. By the way, I shouldn't be laughing at him, but I'm glad I stayed in my tent. I actually slept with both of the vestibules wide open for the first time on this trip, actually. It did give me a bit of a breeze and helped me out on a pretty warm night. It almost feels like cowboy camping, which I'm never going to do, by the way, where you just basically set up your sleeping equipment and don't have a tent at all. But having it open to both sides is definitely a different vibe to it. I enjoyed it, frankly, and I'm going to do that a little bit more because it does help keep the heat down. Because I don't know about you, but my tent, as soon as I close myself into it fully, it definitely is so much warmer than just by having those vestibules open. So I'm going to be doing that a bit more, I think. I had a very modest hiking plan for this day. Steve, another generous listener, was going to pick me up at the High Point State Park headquarters at about 1 o'clock because it was only 11 miles away. He was then going to take me back to his lake house for the weekend and slack pack me both Saturday and Sunday. It's quite it's quite humbling, as I say, when people reach out and offer to help you in the way in which Steve and obviously Don did as well previously. And frankly, I'm so grateful for it. I left camp at the grounds and shelter, and I'm getting a bit confused with what happened. That's right. I got a bit confused then, actually, because I got turned around. Now, I came out of camp and I went the wrong way straight away. And the great thing about Far Out, of course, is it will tell you how far you are off the path. And if you turn your phone in the direction you want to go, you can get straight back to the path. So eventually I found it and I headed north. As I say, not really the best of starts. In the end, I was pretty pleased that I only had a short day because I found the rocks on this particular day to be quite onerous, really. Not desperately difficult, but just in the way. And when you're complaining about rocks being in the way, you do sound a bit entitled, so I apologise for that. But yeah, they just weren't slowing me down. They just weren't they were just in the way. I was also starting to feel a little tired, so this couple of days of slack packing was very welcome to me. As I mentioned earlier, I've lost 45 pounds in weight and I'm feeling a little bit weaker, so I need to eat more food, I suppose. The only real climb of the day was just a couple of 100 feet and took us up to Sunrise Mountain, where I bumped into a bloke called LT, a new friend I'd met the previous evening. He's a really nice, friendly guy who was just starting his flip-flop, and he's a bit nervous about the early miles. We chatted before he headed on, and I stopped and munched away at some snacks as I took a moment to take in the views. We've got a kind of strange pavilion at the top, so I took a video of that as well. Water has been pretty scarce recently, but there are a couple of streams that we passed along the way. Yet I never felt sufficiently thirsty that I needed to fill up. And I know that's probably a mistake, and I need to be better at taking water when I can. Though to be fair, Far Out doesn't recommend many of these sources, as they apparently run pretty close to pasture and could be contaminated. I wonder what by. I stopped for a snack at a shelter where there are a bunch of kids on an outing doing what kids should be doing, messing about in the woods. I just love to see kids out here. And, none of them were on their phones. There was actually service there, but none of them were on their phones. They were all just laughing with each other, pushing each other over, and just generally messing about. Just about a mile before the end, I took a wrong turn on some rocks, which weren't that terrible. And I must have missed a blaze to turn right and found myself, when I looked at the Far Out app, that I was about 100 yards off course. The great thing about Far Out, as I said, is that you can turn your phone and head towards the trail. So I started bushwhacking my way through the undergrowth, unfortunately still holding my phone and keep checking my phone that I was going in the right direction. And I suddenly tripped for fall number 7. But this was my worst so far. In fact, easily my worst so far. As both my knees and my head hit the ground, and I think my knees hit rock. I put my hand up to my head and found there's a bit of blood, though not too much. As I say, it wasn't so bad, but I just rubbed it a little bit. I've got a bit of a scrape up there, but it wasn't too much of an issue. But both my knees were bleeding as well. But I composed myself, got back up and found the trail and went the right way this time. I've always been pleased that I've been able to get up after a fall, obviously, but I've always carried straight on as soon as I realised there's nothing wrong with me, because, as I always say, there's nothing else you can do. You've got no other options. You can either stop and die or you carry on. So I carry on. I came out to the state park headquarters just as Steve turned up, and he took me back to his beautiful lake house. He could not have been more generous to me. And we went for a bite to eat before hanging out with his daughter Anna and his nephew Kyle. Day 90, which was Saturday, High Point State Park headquarters, mile 1340.7 to Liberty Corners Road, mile 1354.4, a 13.7 mile slack pack. Steve and I headed back to the trail at around 6:45 in the morning, stopping at the breakfast place called Granny's and filled up on some corned beef hash and some eggs. We got back to the HQ and I headed off, I think it was about 20 past 8. And from the headquarters, you do go up a little bit towards High Point, but in fact you don't touch High Point. I thought I was going to. I don't remember it from last time. I remember seeing it, but I don't remember seeing it close up, which is because obviously we don't go to it. So it's basically a gentle decline. Is that the word? Decline? Yeah, incline downwards for most of the day. The woods, which are often quite thick when we're passing through them, these were quite sort of open, and I fully expected to see a bear. I would, because the path was quite clear, the rocks weren't bad at all. I would stop every minute or two just to stop and be silent, and look around, expecting to see a bear moving somewhere. I think in all those stops I saw one bloody squirrel. Oh dear. There were also, and I don't know if any of you guys know this, and I should have actually looked into it myself, but there are loads of low walls which look like they were dividing walls from perhaps fields in the past. I just don't know. I wonder if anybody knows. They were about 3 feet high, often knocked down obviously where the path went through. But yeah, there were these walls all over this forest. It's kind of weird actually. With my light pack and gently declining path, it was a lovely day to be out. The day was made even better when I ran into Robbie and Whippoorwill, and we walked together for a couple of miles, chatting away. He's like when you meet up with any old friend, you just chat away with them, and it just feels like just so natural straight away. And I remember this section well, with a little bit of road walking before a right turn that took us on a flat circuit of the beautiful nature reserve. Whippoorwill is a herbalist, so I got a bit of an education on some of the plants I was passing. And funny enough, I thought this at the end of each of my hikes. I wish I knew more about my surroundings, not only the vegetation, but even some of the animals, and what I was passing through. I should be more diligent in working out what I'm passing through when I'm passing through it. And those people who do that, I think, probably enhance their hikes quite a bit. Actually, just before we got to the nature preserve, as I say, we were doing a bit of road walking, and there was a sign that said "Trail Magic, come into the carport." So I went into the carport with Robbie and Whippoorwill, and we helped ourselves to a cold drink. And the guy came out. He was a hiker himself, and just a friendly guy, just chatting with him. And he'd actually run into Whippoorwill's son, Roly Poly, who'd hiked past a few days before. So yeah, it's always nice getting that ad hoc, as it were, trail magic. I'd originally intended to hike a little bit further than I ended up doing, but I tweaked my ankle a little, just a touch, about a mile before I reached Liberty Corners Road, and I called Steve as arranged. He came and picked me up, took me back to his home where I met his lovely wife Joanne, as well as his nephew Garrett and his girlfriend Megan. We were all going to dinner that night and together. And even more wonderful, they knew I was desperate to watch England play Norway in the World Cup, and they left me alone as I streamed the game on the big screen in my bedroom. The game went into overtime, but it was time to leave for dinner, so I hoped that I could record the rest of it on my phone. I needed worried though, as they were playing the game as we arrived at the restaurant and England had taken the lead, and I watched the last 10 minutes and we won. Marvellous. We had a wonderful meal and returned back to Steve's where I interviewed him about his AT adventure. I'll play that now. So I'm sitting outside on this beautiful deck with my friend Steve, or McNulty. Thanks for doing this, Steve, and thanks so much for being such a generous host. It's been an amazing couple of days.
No problem. I'm honored to be on your show.
You're a listener, and you have been a listener for some time, and you did a hike. When did you do your hike?
I started in April of 2024.
Right. And tell us how that went.
It went well. I started in Harper's Ferry. My plan was to do a flip-flop because I started later on in the season. And I walked about 900 miles until I got onto Stratton Mountain, Vermont, and that's where my hike came to a stop.
What happened?
Of all things, I had a kidney stone attack right on the trail without going into too much.
This is the first kidney stone I've heard of stopping someone's life. You hear of people falling, but you fell on a kidney stone as opposed to a kidney rock.
I read all the information on what could take you off the trail, and I worked very hard to avoid all of that. But up on top of Stratton, past the stone, painful, so that created a fall.
Yeah, I bet, yeah.
And I proceeded to hike the 6 miles down to a hostel and eventually had to come off the trail for a long period of time as a result.
So 900 miles ain't nothing. And you said yesterday that your failure of a hike, it's not a failure, because, we know that, it's not, it's a heck of a long way. But how did you feel when you got home?
When I first got home, I thought I would be returning to the trail. I thought it would just be a short-term thing, get it looked at. Turned out there were larger stones, so the realization that I wasn't going to go back that season was about 5 or 6 weeks later.
All right.
And Steve, I was proud of how far I got, but I was disappointed that...
That's a good combination, by the way. That's fair enough, yeah.
I was not able to continue. I just didn't feel, after 6 weeks off and losing the people I was hiking around, that it would be smart to try and go back and do New Hampshire and Maine. That's
one of the toughest things, actually, losing the people you've been hiking around. Especially you get used to them and they get used to you, and they form friendships, don't they? Quite quickly, at shelters and so on. So what was you got on trail, you wanted to do the trail, and you started researching, you found the podcast. What do you think the podcast gave you?
Oh, your podcast was incredible. I can't give you enough credit. First, I went back and listened to every episode from episode 1.
Oh, really?
Exactly. And I used your podcast to time my hikes in the woods. I used your podcast to listen to other people's experiences and learn about equipment. I used to take notes and research the equipment people were talking about. Right. And, I'd read the books of the authors that you had on. So, inspirational. Your podcast inspired me, and like I told you the other day, I don't know whether you ruined my life or made it much better.
Well, I like to think made it much better. I like to think that, because I know you intend to go back at some stage. I know there's not a plan in place right now, but you want to get this done. So how do you see it shaping out now? And would you go back what would you do? Would you go back to the beginning or go back to where you left off? What would you do?
Yeah, I'm back to work now, so the plan for the hike, needs to work around that schedule.
Sure.
I'm hoping that maybe next spring, summer, I can get back out there. And my thought right now is to do a couple of long section hikes to fill in the pieces that I didn't get done. So I think I would go down to Georgia and in one section hike try and make it back up to Harper's Ferry.
It'd be interesting though, wouldn't it? Having met you and spent time with you the last couple of days, you're an achiever. And you achieve stuff, and you get stuff done. I'm guessing you will think at some stage in that section hike, you think, I kind of want to go all the way now. You know what I mean, don't you?
I do, but one thing I learned in my 2.5 months, 3 months out there is it's hard. It's, and it's...
In a good way, though.
It's hard in a good way. As I told you, I enjoyed it. even though there were bad days and bad times, 95% of it I just thoroughly enjoyed. It was everything I wanted. So I'm not sure I'll get that feeling. My feeling right now is to complete the hike.
Yeah.
And mentally right now, I don't need to do it all in one season. Maybe when I retire and get a little older, I'll do what you do and go out and take a second shot at it to try and do it all in one hike.
And how did you get to be McNulty, by the way?
I'll tell the story quick. My wife and I were in a cafe here nearby having breakfast, and I was struggling with work and not being very happy with with just the work life and the amount of energy that went into it at this stage in my life. And this young man came in who I'm guessing worked for the town or some public service. And he was just a very happy person, greeting all of the customers, the dogs, the workers, and just talking about how he's looking forward to going to work, and he's looking forward to working the next day, which was New Year's Day of 2024. And I said to my wife, and he had his name on the back of his shirt, and I said, "Look at McNulty," that was the name on his shirt, and I said, "He's just very happy." I said, I said, "I don't know if I can be that happy. I want to be happy like McNulty." And my wife said to me, "You could be McNulty." And I decided, rather than be named on the trail, I'm a big guy, and I wasn't looking forward to whatever name I might have got. I would be McNulty, the happiest man on the Appalachian Trail.
That's cool.
So that's what I chose to go out with.
That's interesting. Did you actively consider that becoming somebody that you think perhaps you weren't before when you got on trail?
Yes. One of my major goals was to sort of try and become, not that I was disappointed with who I am, but,
I should think not, looking around this place, your lovely family and everything around you. I mean,
but I wanted to change.
You're already McNulty, I'll tell you.
I wanted to change my mindset.
Right.
I wanted to, get out of being aggravated and get into a mindset of, happiness and giving and
well, you certainly do seem to have that now. So did the trail help you with that thing?
Absolutely. Yes, the trail helped because, as you often say, it simplifies, it clears up your head.
Oh, yeah.
I hope to have these great epiphany, but that didn't happen. But at least it kept my head clear, and I learned that I could do something and move from point A to point B with what was on my back.
And that's a wonderful feeling.
And it's cleansing because you realize you don't really need all the things we have in this life.
Yeah, you actually mentioned to me, you listened to the episode with Glenn Van Pesky, and then you read his book, and you started minimalizing generally. So
yes. I embraced a lot of the concepts he had, and then I read him and others on just kind of cleaning out your life, getting rid of the clutter. And as you get older, I've learned that's a good thing to do because it keeps your mind focused.
Yeah.
I'm not saying my family was happy when I pulled a couple of dumpsters up in my yard and started throwing out the furniture, but they've since embraced it, and
because your wife Jo is Italian, so she wouldn't have liked that, would she?
Being fortunate, I've had a lot of good things come to me in my life, and I just thought I've always given back in a way, but I thought it was time to start to really focus on, giving those around me, the people I know, and strangers, trying to be, rather than selling things, give them away.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, man, I've been an absolute beneficiary of that kindness, and I am so appreciative of everything you've done for me this last couple of days. It's been humbling, and it's great to have met you, and I wish you well next year when you go back, if you go back out there.
I will go back out there, and thank you.
Cheers, man. Yes, I know I've been treated outrageously well this week, but I'll make no apologies. Both these gentlemen, Don and Steve, have enhanced this hike in a way that's really quite tough to describe. I'd really been going quite well since I restarted, and this felt like the break that I needed. I've got no upcoming slack packs that I can think of for the time being, and having my full pack once more will be a kind of nice, in a funny sort of way. Let's see how that works out this week. I'll see you next time.